Hey everybody, I just want to let you know that this being the last part in this video series, that I will have a short studio chat immediately afterwards. I hope you join me.
So yesterday, Wednesday, we started in section 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we finished section 6.
Oh, section. We're in section.
We're in 6 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, these have been some
5
long
was longer
sections.
than.
But yeah, a good day. We had good weather. And then we found this nice little spot up here.
Is that our first day of no rain?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's right.
we did hit the lookouts. I can't remember which one. One was like 8,500 feet.
right.
And that was quite a fun drive.
Yep. Yeah, I saw
you
that
nearly took,
alpine.
you nearly took your wing mirror off because the rock face with the drop.
Yeah.
It was close, but that was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that was.
Sierra Buttes Road was probably the highlight of the trip so far,
Yeah.
which had a multi-thousand-foot drop off
Yeah.
on the side of the road.
Yep. We were sorely disappointed in Taylorville,
Oh yeah.
your namesake,
Yep.
because apparently the burger shop's not open on Wednesdays.
And it's been there 100 years.
Or during the
Yeah.
week
And
or
it's the
something.
best shakes and burgers.
Yeah, and so we got there around
We were all
6:30.
excited. Roy kept telling them we were all excited for burgers.
Yeah.
And then we got there and they were closed.
We even saw signs on the BDR in the middle of nowhere on a dirt road saying, hey, you're getting 2 miles from the burger shop.
Yep.
1 mile from the burger shop.
Yep.
The burger temptress set.
And we get there and it's closed.
Teased us. Bunch of cool locals sitting out there though, wanted
Yeah.
us to join them drinking
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
pub.
Yeah, that was cool.
The tavern that didn't
tavern.
serve food.
Right. No tavern. No. Yeah. Plenty of alcohol.
We call that a bar where I'm
chips.
from, but
Yeah.
No, that was cool.
It was a good day, man. Those vertical descents and ascents out of Downeyville and
Yeah.
what was the other
Sierra
one?
City.
Sierra City.
Yep.
Wow, those will
Insane.
test your brakes. You do not want to do that on a motorcycle in like wet weather.
Right.
4-wheel drive, it would be questionable because it's really soft through there. I would bet that it gets really slick.
yeah.
That was in
Nice,
Downeyville,
super
right?
friendly.
My sister's
was.
cottage.
Yeah,
it was in Downeyville.
Going into
Downeyville.
Downeyville.
But also that little, what was the ice cream shop?
little
We
ice
had
cream
ice
parlor.
cream and he got a
that was
sandwich.
Downeyville.
And,
That was
yeah,
Downeyville.
but
It was
what,
beautiful.
do we remember the name?
I love
The ice cream was great.
Little town.
The town was great. The
People were
people
lovely.
there were lovely. Yeah.
I talked to a guy from Downeyville, and he said, all the little towns around here have noticed a major uptick in tourist
Because of the
traffic
BDR.
because of the BDR.
Yeah.
That's great.
So today we're gonna finish 6. We're gonna fill up in Chester, and it's advised that we fill up our spare fuel, except for the super tank over here.
I'll
You'll
probably fill
probably
up
still want
my
to.
Well,
Fill
that's
up.
our spare fuel right there.
Yeah, right. Getting it back out is going to be a challenge of,
It would
of
be.
his super tanker. But it's advised because we're going to do the red route, which takes us up elevation. Kind of looks like it's a shortcut, but it's deceptive because it bypasses where you would normally stop for fuel and
Correct.
end section 7. So you end up, if you take the alt route, you end up on section 8.
Mhm.
And so you either have to go back for fuel, or you have to make it the total route for section 7 to the end of section 8 is about 180 miles.
Yeah, they say all
So
in,
for
yeah.
a motorcycle, you need to really carry fuel. If you're pushing 4-wheel drive I mean, we're
You need
all
a
getting
full tank.
terrible
Yeah, you full tank.
gas mileage on, you don't buy a Jeep for gas mileage.
Mm-hmm.
So, but off-road, you're using a lot more. So we're going to top up our reserves and push through, and then probably end up camping somewhere on 7 or 8. Cool. All right.
Okay.
Let's get on the trail.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
And Mark is rolling. Well, this is a long, steep downgrade.
It says bridge out ahead, 23 miles, and we're at 23.4 miles to the end of the destination. This might be interesting. One thing I didn't check were the trail conditions on the BDR website before we left. Did anybody else? I read the notes. I don't remember seeing anything about a bridge being out.
Here's Dan. There's the view.
Watch out for some down trees and low-hanging branches further up. Copy that, thank you.
I don't know if you're in my dust or not, but there is a tree coming across the road from the right. It's in the air. You would want to avoid that.
Yeah, I'm out in the dust and I did see it. I just passed it there. I like all this manzanita along the route.
Yeah, lots of it.
We are arriving in Chester, and we are looking for a shake burger place that Dan has found.
Fine Chat Crossing. What do we think about the shakes?
Give me a headache.
They don't suck.
They're
Some of
good.
the best shakes I've ever had. Yeah. Chocolate cherry. What do you got?
Just straight up chocolate, old school chocolate.
Chocolate. You got a pineapple.
Pineapple down here, yeah.
That's really good. Really good.
What'd you get?
Chocolate.
Chocolate?
Yeah.
All right.
While driving around Lake Almanor and through the town of Chester, we were hung up twice, losing about an hour total of travel time while waiting on and following a pilot vehicle at 2 lengthy road construction projects.
Right into a cemetery, huh?
pressure indicator is indicating 0 psi. That's an aftermarket ad that I put in, and I believe it's probably just a wiring problem at the sensor. The reason for that is because I don't have an oil warning idiot indicator on my dash, and it's entirely separate wiring, and so I should have both at the same time if there truly was 0 psi. So I'm going to ignore it and get to a place where we stop or camp. I'll take a look at that wiring map at the sensor.
Hog Flat Reservoir. You literally, in stereo, you and Jeff both said it.
There's quite a view off to the left.
There is.
We reached Antelope Mountain Lookout, and the views from there were incredible. We could easily see Lassen Volcano, situated about 33 miles away, and we could pick out, just barely in the haze, 14,162-foot Mount Shasta, 87 miles away.
Where are these bushes? Cheers, Dan. Just got hit by a fir tree.
We get down here on this double back. That's a semi-decent road. I'm going to probably check and see if I've got any underbrush stuck underneath. It sounds like I do have some.
It was getting late in the day, and we'd lost a bit of time both due to construction delays and just taking our time at some of the amazing places we'd stop. Anyway, we picked up the pace quite a bit, Dan and Steve getting perhaps 15 to 20 minutes ahead of Roy and me.
We've caught up with Dan and Jeff and Steve and are preparing to head up on this red route.
Wow, this is beautiful.
Oh, bikes.
We got a couple of motorcycles coming, guys. Two more motorcycles coming, guys.
It was another late arrival for us to set up camp. I began working on my daily routine of preparing a quick meal and making copies of the photos and videos shot that day by everyone. I was working at the rear of the Jeep as usual. I needed a card from one of the cameras setting in the Jeep, and when I opened the door, the interior light, which was on, went off. But the rear area of the Jeep was still illuminated. I realized that was an aftermarket light working off the aux battery, where the Jeep interior lighting worked off the start battery. I checked and everything on the start battery was inoperable. I dug out my voltmeter and the aux battery had over 12 volts, while the start battery was barely 8 volts. Something was amiss. Dan mentioned that it must have been that battery's moment to die, and I pointed out that it was right next to the heat from the intake manifold leak. Regardless, we rerouted the battery cables, removing power to all of the aux equipment, including my fridge, so that we could use the aux battery in place of the start battery. We would have physically moved the batteries, but figured it was best to keep the one good battery away from the heat source. On top of that, we noticed that the aux battery was swollen. It would not fit back into its mounting rack. There were serious problems caused by the heat in the engine bay. I would have all night to ponder what my options were. It was the planned last day of the trip. That morning, Dan and I discussed my options. It was Friday of Labor Day weekend, so that would affect my choices. And there were complications with being expected to be back home by that Monday. But I was concerned about the continuing damage were I to try to drive all of the way home. Ultimately, I decided it was best to minimize driving my Jeep until the exhaust leak was repaired. From the red route we were on, we'd soon drop down to pavement. And there was a modest-sized town, Susanville, not too far away and in the direction of home for me. I'd head there and find a mechanic. During the drive to pavement, my main concern was the loose batteries. Because of the swelling, we could not secure them into the rack. I didn't want to hit any rough spots fast, so we'd keep the pace down. After my departure for Susanville, the rest of the group would continue to finish the route.
Susanville, California. City center. At stop. Says it's 54 miles.
All right, Mr. Taylor. Goodbye, man. I'm gonna miss you. Oh, you're not the guy I'm saying goodbye to. Oh. All right, so we're gonna split. We've had a few mechanical issues with the green bomber back here, but I think we've got a plan, which Mark will describe to you at some point.
Yeah, I'll tell him about the one that works.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Good trip, long one. All right, so give yourself some time on the NorCalBDR. We had weather, we had mechanical challenges. The only vehicle in the group that yet has not had a mechanical challenge is the Toyota.
Don't say it. Don't say it, man.
Which is where the camera is sitting.
Not
right
impervious.
With 100 and some odd miles to go.
Yeah,
I think, by the way,
we can still make that happen for you.
It's day 7.
No.
Isn't it? I think it's day 7.
Let's see. We met on Saturday.
Yeah.
This is
It's
Friday.
Yeah,
This is day 7.
this is day 7.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, Mark, let us know. Let's all make sure our trackers are on in WhatsApp in the team chat.
Cool.
And yeah, we're gonna run up and finish the last bit of section here. Probably be done in a few hours, and then the rest of this group will be heading our separate ways. So it's been a great trip, all challenges considered. Thanks for putting in the time to pull together and do something like this with me again. Really appreciate it.
Glad to be invited, as always.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, guys.
Mark.
I'll do it again. Come here, man. Take care, man.
I smell like I need a shower.
Yeah, you stink.
Nice to meet you, man.
We all stink, though.
All right, man. Be well, man. Be safe. Okay.
It was great to be with you again.
Yeah, likewise,
Glad
man.
we finally made it out.
All right, be safe.
Ultimately, I'd reached Susanville, and even as I arrived in town, I spotted a convenient motel, a Mexican food restaurant, and spoke with a mechanic, all within 5 minutes' walk of each other. The quickest anyone could get to my Jeep was Tuesday after the holiday, so I'd stay there over the weekend. The problem with my Jeep was the two bolts that hold the catalytic converter to the exhaust manifold flange had fallen out. The heat had damaged the two batteries, of course, as well as some of the spark plug wires. It is also likely that caused the oil pressure gauge to fail, although I have not pursued that as of yet. I've been busy with these videos. With my Jeep repaired, during the drive home I'd stop in Flagstaff and have lunch with Matt, whom you may remember from many of my past trips, and Shane, who ran the El Camino del Diablo with us back in 2020. And the clouds were quite dramatic as I approached the turnoff for Petrified Forest National Park, so I took a quick drive through the park to shoot a few photos.
This is the red route of section 8. Ready?
Did it turn right by you, Mark?
Ooh.
All right, everybody. Time to eat. Ooh, didn't get that. Where are all your buddies at? Ah, here they come. Hey there! How are you doing today? I thought it'd be a little fun today to share with you what it is that causes me to need to get home after a couple of weeks. And it's primarily these two aquariums. In the case of the trip that you just watched the videos of, the Northern California BDR, my next door neighbors had a trip of their own planned towards the end of my trip. There's a little bit of overlap where we'd both be gone, and so we had arranged for some weekend food to last just a couple of days, but it ended up having to last about 6 days as a result of my delay in returning home. Hey, you guys are splashing water all over. So, I'm smiling thinking about the singing at the end of the video there, but before the aquariums. And I have guys, sometimes they'll put a little something in the videos and I'm not aware that they did that until I'm actually here at home and I'm looking and I come across this stuff and I'm like, wow, that's really neat. A lot of times it's their honest opinion about what they're experiencing right there at that moment, and I really appreciate those, because I think too often people are tempted on the YouTube channels to kind of maybe force a little bit what is actually going on rather than just talking about the real experience. I try really hard on my videos to make it the real experience that we're having. There's nothing faked there. It's all genuine, bona fide. The reactions are all true. The emotions are all factual. Anyway, back on task. The big gorilla in the room is what happened to my Wrangler. In the process of getting the motor put in on it, afterwards there were a total of 3 shops that had worked on the Wrangler. And so one might say, well, who did what? And actually, I'm not too worried about that. There was the shop that installed the motor in there. Then there was a shop that had to work on the muffler because the shop that installed the motor pointed out to me there was a problem with the exhaust system. So the exhaust system was worked on by a different shop. And then finally, after the spring adventure, there were some more mods. I'll talk a little bit about them that I did on the Wrangler. Actually, rather extensive mods on the suspension and stuff. And they had a problem with the battery tray getting in the way of trying to mount a new shock in there. And so they had to take some of that apart. So the bottom line is, it was a failure on my part, and I take blame for that. I take blame for not giving credence to the suggestion that Roy had. He said, let me get a wrench and I'll crawl under there and we'll see what we can see in the way of any loose bolts. And Steve called out, hey, you got to watch out for that heat. And my problem was I'd had 3 prior experiences, actually 4 if you want to include my dad's 1965 Mustang with a 289. 4 prior experiences with a broken exhaust manifold, and all of them were relatively benign. You either hear the loud exhaust, you hear the popping of the cylinder that's right next to the crack every time that cylinder fires, but they're nothing serious. And I was thinking exhaust manifold crack is what the problem was. Even though they were new exhaust manifolds, we replaced both the exhaust manifolds and put the new motor in because both the exhaust manifolds were cracked on the old motor. So I take blame for that. I should have been more aware. I should have been more open to the suggestions that were provided to me by Steve and Dan as well, and Roy. And I should have just been paying closer attention to what the symptoms were. In hindsight, there were quite a few symptoms, and I think that oil pressure gauge is one of those symptoms. I have not fixed that yet. I've been working on these videos, so therefore I have not been able to get the Wrangler worked on. I did pick up 2 new batteries for the Wrangler, and they're sitting in the garage, and I got the old batteries disposed of. I'll throw a picture up here right now so you can see what those batteries look like that came out. You can tell that they were severely heat damaged, and I was probably pretty lucky to get home on just the 1 battery that I left in there. And then as far as the tires go, that was as far as, people are like, wow, that's a lot of money to spend on tires when you're out there in the fields. To be clear, I had already planned to replace all 4 tires, actually all 5 tires on the Wrangler after the trip. And the tires were not low. I think a lot of mistake that a lot of off-roaders do is they think they can run their tires all the way down to the tread wear indicators. You can, as long as you replace them right before you go on an off-roading adventure. But you get down past about 2/3 of the tread wear, the way to the tread wear indicator, it's about time to be replacing your tires in order to maintain some decent amount of off-roading performance. The tread wear indicators are great for letting you know how it's going to do on wet pavement, and once you get below that, then they start getting dangerous on wet pavement. But they're not a good guide for when you should be replacing your tires if you off-road it regularly. I had a friend come over. I can't lift the batteries out anymore. I don't have the strength to lift them out. And I had a friend come over and he helped me get the batteries out. And I got the 2 new batteries sitting in the garage. I told him, I'm going to leave those out. As soon as I get done with all these videos, I want to get in there in that engine compartment and go over it, look at everything in there and see if there's any additional damage in there that I may have overlooked, or that the mechanic that I had working on it, Grant. By the way, a really cool story about Grant. So I go into this place to find a mechanic, and I walk in there and I'm talking to Mike, who's the kind of the admin guy in the shop there, and he says, all right, so we'll call you Monday. Actually, he said we'll call you Monday. I said Monday's a holiday, hoping that they were going to be open. He says, oh, that's right, we won't be able to call you until Tuesday. I says, okay. And he says, and then we'll let you know you can go ahead and bring the Jeep over here and we'll take a look at it. He says, okay. He says, so what's your name? I says, Mark Doron. He says, how do you spell that? D-O-I-R-O-N. He says, oh, that's our guy out in the shop's that last name. And I'm like, really? and it turns out it really is his last name. And he comes from New Hampshire, which is where my mom was born, so I figured they were somehow related. And so we formed a really quick friendship. And then a couple of days later, I'm in a grocery store picking up a couple of things in the grocery store. And as I'm talking to the cashier checking me out, this guy comes behind me. I hear this voice say, hey, Mark, what you doing over here? And I turn around and it's Grant back there. And so we've got just kind of a little family friendship going on there. And that was probably very handy in getting me the service that I got, because they slipped me right in on Tuesday morning. All right, so Wrangler mods. A couple of things that I did I had a shop up in Edmondu on the Wranglers, included replacing the springs. I went from, I had a mix of OME springs, so some of the heavy duty springs that are actually designed for diesel vehicles, because the lower rated springs were sagging too much. My Jeep is unfortunately pretty heavy. And so I replaced those with the Terraflex overlanding springs. I had the shocks in the Wrangler replaced with the Fox 2.0 shocks. That's where they were having the problem trying to get the shock there by the front passenger. And that's always been a troublesome one because of the dual battery kit I have in there. And they did some good work though. And the Wrangler's pretty solid, except for the fact that I had that loose manifold bolts. So yeah, there is that. I have replaced the radios in the Wrangler and the Gladiator. The older Midland radios that were narrowband only to the newer radios that are wideband and narrowband capable. I went with the 50-watt units. I've got a lot of experience with radios, and you don't need 50 watts for what we do, okay? So if you want to save a couple of bucks and get the 15-watt radio, you're going to be able to have fantastic communications on a 15-watt Chimres Midland radio, or some of the other brands also. Besides, all of them, if you go down to channel 4, the lower channels, they're restricted to 5 watts anyway, no matter how much the power output. If you go to the higher channels, like 15, 16, so on, then you can use the 50 watt output. However, keep in mind that those are the channels where there are repeaters at, so you may have interference from a repeater depending where you're at. And you may be interfering with a repeater as well. So anyway, I did get the Midland MXT 575, I think is what they are. But what I really want to bring out is I also replaced both microphones with the newer microphone. The newer microphone ought to be the microphone that radio comes with, because it's so much nicer than the older microphone. The older microphone, you're trying to interpret these little kind of numbers that are kind of like letters in order to see what function that you're changing. The new one's as plain as day, and it's just a much nicer microphone. But it was like $80 some odd for the microphone, and it's like, why couldn't you just charge me an extra $40 and include it with the radio, and but they don't. I do recommend that microphone. There's not a significant performance advantage. I didn't notice any real difference between that and the other radio, even though it has a special mode for reducing noise. Maybe it was helping at the other end. Well, I guess that the last thing I've got is, you may remember about a year ago I did the East Idaho Overland Route along with George Coe and a group of other people, mostly from Idaho, and a couple of other YouTubers. Anyway, George and his daughter Tess have a book that they're putting out about the route, and it's a really great route. I think it's going to be very popular. It goes across you start in Jordan Valley, Oregon, right across the border from Idaho. You cross the southern part of Idaho, and you end up in Alpine, Wyoming. It's a pretty long route. I think it's 600 miles, maybe. I'm not sure. It's the fat part of Idaho. It's not the slender part of Idaho. But anyway, it's a pretty long route. It took us, I think we spent 8 days on it. Of course, we were validating the route, and so you're not going to be taking dead ends and stuff like that we would take, I would hope, unless you make a wrong turn. But anyway, there's a book. It's going to be available, and I'll have in the description of this video, I will put a link to a short video that George put together about the release of the book. And it's just a lot of still pictures. You'll notice that there's a lot of there's credits to who shot what photos, and you notice a lot of my photos are a part of that. So I don't know how many of the photos might be in the book. I assume he'll use a few of the photos in the book. But that's it. Okay, mics, radios, Wrangler mods, KO3 tires, oil pressure gauge, book. That's all I've got. Thank you very much for hanging with us for this series. Really enjoyed having you along. Have a great day. Explore your world.